Well, good morning and welcome to screencast for Unit 9, Lesson 4, and we are going to go over very quickly the ecology of marine ecosystems. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe the ecological relationships that occur in a marine ecosystem. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start going over the major types of marine ecosystems, and the title Under the Sea made me think of the movie The Little Mermaid. So there's actually a cute song by Sebastian the Crab in The Little Mermaid, so I thought I would play that at some point in this screencast. But anyway, let's look at what are the major types of marine ecosystems. Okay, marine ecosystems are saltwater ecosystems, and the three main types of marine ecosystems are coastal ocean, open ocean, and deep ocean ecosystems. Okay, what I did is I went ahead and took a marker and color coded. Y'all know me. I color code everything. So the coastal ocean ecosystems are highlighted in brown. Coastal ocean ecosystems are found on or near coastlines. So things like sandy beaches, rocky shores, and coral reefs are all examples of coastal ocean ecosystems. Open ocean ecosystems are found over very deep water, and they extend from the water's surface down to darker, colder waters below. But then the very, very, very bottom of the ocean, where it's really deep, we're going to call that deep ocean ecosystems. Okay, those are the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Sorry about that. So deep ocean ecosystems are the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, and the ocean floor, really far away from coastlines, are going to represent your deep ocean ecosystems. Basically, there's going to be no light down there, and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. So just to prove that you're listening, you're not going to see me write it down, but I am going to hold you responsible for answering number 5. If you look at the three pictures, the one furthest to the left, you should probably label coastal ocean because that is a beach, and that is a coastal ocean ecosystem. The middle picture is just open seawater. You know, if you were sailing on a ship in the middle of the ocean, that might be a picture that you would see off the bow of the ship. That would represent an open ocean ecosystem. So write that down for the middle picture. And then the picture on the right shows actually a hydrothermal vent, and those are found very, very, very deep at the bottom of the ocean in certain places. So that would be a picture representing a deep ocean ecosystem. And remember, if we're going to take pictures down there, we have to send cameras that are designed to go in very deep waters, that have to, provide their own light to take the pictures and everything, because down there, it's in such deep water that there's no light down there. Okay, so down at the bottom, I'm going to remind you that abiotic means not living, whereas remember biotic means living. So what abiotic factors affect marine ecosystems? Well, things like temperature, pressure, water depth, water flow rate, meaning how fast is the water flowing, light levels, how much light penetrates down into that level of ocean water, how much salt is there, so salt levels and oxygen levels. Those are all abiotic, non-living factors that affect marine ecosystems. Okay? And I wanted to point out that in deep ocean ecosystems, okay, that there is basically no light whatsoever. It's pitch dark. The absence of light in deep ocean ecosystems causes them to be dark and cold, and the extreme depths lead to high pressure. All right, I'm now on page 539. Where can marine ecosystems be found? We've already talked about this a little bit because it's sort of restating some of what we saw on page 538. Coastal ocean ecosystems are found along the edges of continents and islands. Remember, I don't know how familiar you are with what's called the continental shelf, but it's that area between the coastlines and the really, really deep ocean waters. So it's fairly shallow, even in the ocean, right near the coast. So that's going to be a coastal ocean ecosystem. They're going to include beaches, tidal pools, which means that those are areas where When high tide is happening, then the water is in that area, and then at low tide, a lot less water, or sometimes tidal pools can lose their water altogether, depending on the situation. But anyway, there's a lot of fluctuation as to how much water is in the area if you're talking about a tidal pool. Seagrass beds, coral reefs, and kelp forests. Those are all coastal ocean ecosystems. Open ocean ecosystems are located, remember, in waters away from the coast, and deep ocean ecosystems are found as far down as 11,000 meters under the sea in some of those very, very deep ocean trenches. Okay, so now we're going to look one more time at coastal ocean ecosystems. Again, beaches, tidal pools, seagrass beds are all coastal ocean ecosystems, and they are going to be most affected by tides and wave action. Organisms that live in these ecosystems have got to be adapted to changes in salt levels, temperature, water flow, and water depth. Okay, skipping down to the next paragraph. Coral reefs and kelp forests are underwater coastal ocean ecosystems. Coral reefs are found mainly in shallow tropical coastal waters. Okay, those are formed from oh gosh. I can't think of the critter's name, but anyway, the coral reefs are actually formed as a remnant, sort of an ending skeleton from I think it's sea anemones. Anyway, but it's kind of, it looks kind of limestoney and whatnot, but it provides kind of structure and a place, a habitat for a lot of different things. Kelp forests. Kelp's basically a type of seaweed. Kelp forests are mainly in cold, nutrient-rich coastal waters. Okay. And then over here at the side, I wanted to remind you that marine ecosystems are really, really, really important for us to pay attention to, because 71% of the Earth's surface is actually covered with water. And of all the water on the Earth, 96.5% of it is ocean water, meaning it's salt water. Okay, so 96.5% of all of our water is found in some sort of marine ecosystem. Okay, all right. Okay, so just real quickly, we're on page 540. Remember, the second type of marine ecosystem that we're going to talk about is the open ocean ecosystem. They occur far from the coastlines, and your open ocean ecosystems are actually divided into layers because the water near the surface gets plenty of sunlight, so that's going to be the top layer, the sunlight zone. Down below that, where there's only a little light, we're going to call that the twilight zone because it's deeper and we have less light. Twilight sort of means like low light at the end of the day sort of thing. And then the midnight zone is the deepest and darkest of the open ocean ecosystem. Remember, that midnight zone is sort of the bottom zone that's considered an open ocean ecosystem. And then even deeper than that is the deep ocean ecosystems that we'll talk about in a minute. All right, it's really important that you understand that in an open ocean ecosystem, there are things called plankton, and there's basically two types of plankton. There's phytoplankton, which is plant-like, and then there's zooplankton, which is sort of teeny tiny little animals. And it's really important that you understand that phytoplankton, the plant-like plankton, those are your producers in the open ocean ecosystem. So that starts the food web in an open ocean ecosystem. So producers are your phytoplankton, and then the phytoplankton is eaten by zooplankton, and then there's a lot of other things that feed off of the zooplankton in that open ocean ecosystem. And we'll look at some food chains with that later on. Okay, so jot this stuff down and then join me on page 541. All right, deep ocean ecosystems are in the very, very deepest parts of the ocean where it is completely dark and you have extremely high pressure because of all the weight of the water above. So you're talking about dark, cold, and extremely high pressure. Okay. Because of the lack of light in deep ocean ecosystems, there is no photosynthesis occurring. So you don't have, little plants or phytoplankton or whatever existing down in deep ocean ecosystems because there's no sunlight for photosynthesis to happen. So organisms in the cold deep ocean cannot get energy from living producers, things that make their own food from sunlight. So they have to get energy in other ways, and there's a variety of organisms and things that have adapted to get their energy in some other way. So sea cucumbers, for instance, and brittle stars feed on organic matter that floats down from higher ocean levels. Anglerfish have adapted so that they produce their own light to attract prey. And then there are also hydrothermal vent systems found along the ocean bottom in some places. And at those hydrothermal vent systems, there is bacteria that actually can use some of the chemicals in that area coming out of those vents and things and produce their own food. So that would be a way that the food web in a deep ocean ecosystem may start. Okay. But the big thing to remember about deep ocean ecosystems is that there is absolutely no sunlight down there. It is pitch black. Okay. And so the food web in a deep ocean ecosystem is not going to involve your typical producer that makes its own food from sunlight. Okay, there's no highlighting that I'm going to have you do on page 542, although I would encourage you please to read page 542. And then we're going to look at the food web on page 543, and we're going to fill that in. First of all, notice here that I have written the word parasite because this nematode is a parasite that's taking advantage of the grouper, which is a type of fish. And make sure that you point this out to yourself, that it says if you have a circle that's overlapping another circle, it shows a parasitic relationship. Okay? All right, so let's look at our chart down at the bottom. Your algae are single-celled little producers that take advantage of photosynthesis, so those are producers. Based on the relationships in the food web, you can see that the grouper is a consumer. The nematode, the sea turtle, the parrotfish, and the reef shark, those are all consumers because the only thing that qualifies as a producer, again, is the algae. The nematode has an overlapping circle with the grouper. So yes, it's a consumer, but it's also a parasite. The thing that the parasite is living off of is called its host. And so the grouper is what the nematode is feeding off of. So the grouper is a host. So you have the parasite, which is the one that's taking advantage of the host to get nutrients and things. You can see that the grouper feeds off of or eats parrotfish because the arrow points towards the eater, remember. So the grouper is also a predator. But the grouper is also eaten by the reef shark, so the grouper is also prey. Okay. The sea turtle eats algae, but it doesn't appear to eat anything else. So it's a consumer, but it is not a predator or anything else. The parrotfish is a consumer because it's eating the algae, but it's also prey because it is eaten by the grouper and the reef shark. Okay. And then the reef shark is a consumer, meaning it does not make its own food, and it is a predator. And since nobody eats the reef shark, it's not considered prey. Okay? All right, so fill that out and join me for screencast number 2.